Hello and welcome back to the Untriggered Parenting Podcast with me, Paula Sampson Lawrence. Today my very special guest is Lolly Williams Gibbs, aka the Manifesting Mama. Lolly shares with us her very personal journey of living life more consciously and by design, and how we can do the same. Let's dive in. So welcome, Lolly, to the show. I'm really excited to have you. When we had our little chat, we were chatting for ages, and I was like, we should have recorded the chat we had before this. So you are also known as the Manifesting Mama. So if you introduce yourself and give us a little background, and so we can get to know you better.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Lolly. I'm also known as the Manifesting Mama. So I'm a wife. I am a mum to two little ones, but one is SEN. Bless him, he's got ADHD. I am a chronic illness warrior, so I have fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and what they all now think is ADHD too.
Oh, wow.
And I am just starting my own business. And I used to be a teacher of secondary school children. So for over 10 years.
Wow.
I'm from North London originally. So that was where I was based, just outside Tottenham. So we're sort of like from Enfield, but I grew up I'm not on the Tottenham end. And then I came up to sort of and started teaching in Luton and became a head of year in the pastoral sector.
Yeah.
So I crashed and burned and got out.
I can imagine it's not easy. I salute you teaching secondary school, especially. I just, I take my hat off to you. It's not for the faint-hearted, really. So you have lived a life. It sounds like, and you mentioned you've got two little ones, and as we all know, as mums, it can get so easy to be sort of, bogged down with the day-to-day of motherhood, really, and losing ourselves and losing our identity, and even forgetting what we like to do and how we want our life to look like. So you've managed to sort of design your life how you want it.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing now, is live life by your design, because I think while I was teaching, so my little boy, he's 11 now, he's going on 12. Do you know what I mean? He's like up here on me. He's at that stage where he's like, Mum, don't cuddle me. Don't need to be tucked into bed at night.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, and when it's like in the summer holidays, like, Mum, give me a cuddle. As soon as he started secondary school, that was it. So I think so the story with my son was I had him in my NQT year of so that was my newly qualified teaching in my very first year of teaching. Fell pregnant, so I had him in my second year. So essentially everything I'd worked towards for me kind of went on the back burner, and it was almost like a bit of a false start. So already I was in that role of putting everything on the back burner to be a mum. And unfortunately, I knew deep down that the person I was with, like my partner, Jack's dad, just wasn't the right person. And I knew that I would become just mum. And I knew that within myself. And then within a year, we broke up and ended up in a horrendous court battle for a couple of years. And it was a bit of an relationship. So everything was about protecting my son. That was my it was living in survival mode, and it all became about protecting my son and putting his needs first and what I needed to do for him. And then with the teaching career, it's very much about what are the kids needing, what are the rest of your team needing. And I was in this situation where I was living back with my parents, and then it was like, what does my household need? What do my parents need? What does my brother need? Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't until realistically, probably, that I realized now, a few years ago when I met my husband now, it was 6 years ago, I think it was, we met.
sort of
Yeah, really, when I was
around that time.
about 6 years ago. That actually, it was when I allowed myself to become a little bit more vulnerable
Mm,
with him and open up to that and allow myself to come out of survival mode,
mm,
and him sort of like broaching like, what do you need? And I was like, oh. And actually, what I realize now is that it's only really been the last couple of years that
mm,
I've really started to think, what do I want? What do I authentically, who is authentically Lolly? Who am I?
mm. Yeah.
Because what I realized now, when they sort of made that suggestion, when we was going through the diagnosis with Jack and his ADHD, and I was
Yeah.
doing a lot more of the research and stuff like that. And then when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, and they sort of said, well, actually, we think it could be the reason you have this is because actually we think you've got ADHD. And I was like,
Right.
okay. And then doing my own research into ADHD and the rejection sensitivity dysphoria
Yes. Yeah.
that ADHD has, it dawned on me that actually, for my entire life, even as a child, I am living my life for other people.
Mm-hmm.
People please, to make sure I fit in, so I don't seem like the odd one out, so my parents are happy. And I don't think that it is something, it isn't just for ADHD. I think this is really, really, it's something that is almost inbuilt in girls, particularly,
Yeah.
even from a really, really young age. They have this nurturing side, and they want to give up, you know, what they want. Even to the point where I see it in my daughter now. She's 2,
Mm-hmm.
and she's playing with other children, and there is that element of, I'm really caring for that baby, and I'm
Yeah.
caring for those dollies, and it's like, she'll happily give away the toys that she was really wanting to play with,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that other baby or that other child, and although it seems really, really lovely, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you waited for so long to have your turn, and you waited really, really like ages for that toy, and you're just giving it away because somebody
Yeah.
else
I wanted it.
wanted
Yeah. Asked
it.
for it, or yeah.
Yeah, and there is that element too. I think that it comes quite easily to girls that we self-sacrifice, and I think that's kind of built into our nature, because we do. There is an element
Yes.
of, as a mum, you have to,
Yeah. You have to.
to an
Yeah.
extent.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I think that's where we need to kind of stop and go, actually, where is that
Mm-hmm.
boundary? Where is that line? Where am I self-sacrificing to the point of self-destruction to, for this immediate
Mm-hmm.
effect, like right now? Whereas actually, if I set this boundary in,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm actually going to serve myself, to be able to serve my family for a longer period of time.
Yes.
Um, and that's actually what, I'm actually really thankful for being diagnosed with fibro and chronic fatigue, because it's forced me into that situation of, I have to look after myself in order to be able to look after my daughter and look after my
Yes.
son, look after my
Yeah.
husband, and be there. Because if I didn't, I could have possibly been bedbound by now.
That's the thing, because I read a statistic, and I talked about that on my last episode, that around 80% of those who have autoimmune diseases are women. 80%. And that just speaks to how we have to carry so much of the emotional, weight of our families, of our communities, extended families, and it results in sickness,
Yeah.
and I watched this film, and it had Gabor Mate in it, and he was talking about the whole film was about how we're formed in the womb, and how
Yeah.
that dictates the environment that we are, the baby is being grown in, how that affects how they are when they're born and their life. So if we have these women who are tired and who are sick and who are stressed, and they're bringing children into the world, and then we wonder why our children are anxious, our children are have all these other problems? And is it
Mhm.
because of all the pressure that women face going through life, just going through life, just trying to live and survive?
Brief thing about the fibro that I have is, so it's like chronic pain constantly, but it's
Mm-hmm.
actually more than just chronic pain. Where we find ourselves in this flight and fight response, this stress mode, that
Mm-hmm.
actually you've been in that flight or fight response for so long that your nervous system is kind of broken and got stuck.
Yeah, that's your normal now, isn't it?
And that is my normal, yeah. So I
Mm,
feel like that slightly tension, and obviously with the added tension becomes the muscle tension, the pain,
mm-hmm.
the extended cortisol that you have, the
Yes,
hormone, the problem that has causes a lot of weight issues because
yes,
your body isn't able to do like lose the cortisol, just puts on weight. You're
yes,
not
yeah.
sleeping, which is
Lack of sleep, exactly.
they sort of say it's like sleeping with one eye open. Your
Yeah,
body isn't actually switching off. It's just kind of,
no.
it's in standby mode. Like you were saying, mums take on all of that pressure,
Mm-hmm.
and it, and this is kind of why I go. The work that I do is about living, parenting a little bit more consciously, and it's not just consciously with your children, but it's also consciously of yourself, and the
Yes,
impact what
yes,
you're doing could have on your children, but also on yourself,
yeah.
and also thinking about how you were parented has
Mm-hmm.
left a mark on you, and it might. And I'm not. And this is the thing, like people think when you look at how you were parented, and it like sort of like the inner child work from when you
Mm.
were a child and the belief systems that you were given, they think, oh, sometimes you must have had a really horrible childhood and you lived in this really traumatic state. And that's not the case.
No.
I had beautiful parent upbringing, like my mum and dad are still together, they live happily together. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
I think it comes with that concept of the belief systems of the society that you were brought up in, and
yeah.
it is partly generational. So I'm heading late 30s, heading into my 40s, and that sort of time period, that generation were coming out of the first generation, coming out of the Second World War, where women were having a job and looking after a
Yes,
family,
yeah,
and they were that next generation going, well, we can have it all, we can do this
yeah.
and we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the women were literally running a house, running a family, having to work. We grew up with mums or female role models that were doing everything.
Everything, yes.
And I don't know about you, but if I was to sit down and she was working, I'd get up.
Yeah,
Why am I doing it all? Come and help me.
yeah,
And there is that element of that your belief system then is you've always got to be doing,
yes,
and it's that
absolutely.
very masculine energy of do,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
can't relax. And then unfortunately what that has caused is that we lose that ability to sit in our female energy and heal, and our
Mm-hmm.
bodies are always go go go, do. And
And
yeah.
it's so important that we have that time to slow down and heal because, of course, men are important, but women have this thing of being able to bring, bear children. And it's so important that the children are raised in this sort of calm environment that's not filled with cortisol. Imagine growing in a womb of a mother that's just so stressed, and you're surrounded by cortisol. What's that going to do for when you were born? And
Exactly.
you mentioned earlier about living in survival mode and what that does to your nervous system. So
Yeah.
how do you, a lot of mums I know living in survival mode. I said to my friend a few months ago, I'm always on the edge, sort of just always teetering on the edge, not quite going over. But who wants to be teetering on the edge all the time?
It's today the day that I finally break and just sit down and cry. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you come out of survival mode? Some mums think there's no time to stop, there's no time to rest. I've got too much to do. So how do you go from surviving to thriving?
Oh, don't do it the way that I did it.
Mm.
I burnt out, and
Yes, yeah.
what I have learned since is
Mm.
that if I listen to myself
Yeah.
and I think about what I really want, I realize that actually my needs are just as important as anybody else's.
Yeah.
And that is not me being selfish. That is me putting myself on the same level as everyone else.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And also realizing that by doing that, I'm not only helping myself be there better and show up better and longer for my
Mm-hmm.
children, but I'm actually also role modeling for them.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
if I am a mum who is not setting those boundaries, who
Mm-hmm.
isn't looking after themselves, who lets people talk to them like crap,
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't know how to say no, what that's exactly what I'm teaching my children.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's really important to slow right down and, like you said, figure out what it is that you want and what
Yeah.
is it that you like and want out of life. And also, I taking it into the sort of conscious parenting space, looking at what are your values in your parenting and what are like when you say no to your children, why are you saying no? Is it because it's an automatic response because your parents would have said no to you? Or is
Yeah.
it something that is really important to you? Because I find myself certain things, I'm like, I actually don't, that act doesn't bother me. So yes, you can do that. But in my mind, there's an automatic no, just because,
Yeah.
and it's taking that time to say, what are your values for your family, not how you brought up for your family. And some things you can say yes to because it doesn't bother you, it's
Yeah.
totally fine.
But and this is it. It is, I think the biggest thing for me is that self-awareness of
Mm-hmm.
and allowing myself to feel my feelings.
Yes.
Because I think we grew up in a society where we're told, don't cry. You can't get angry. You're not allowed to be angry. That
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And I think that also I think it is also coming from British society. It is that sort of stiff upper lip kind of thing. Because I was actually saying this the other day to someone else that you should be able to feel your
Yeah.
feelings. If you've actually sat there and felt your anger, maybe an hour, 2 hours,
Mm-hmm.
generally you calm down if you're allowed to calm down and you're not
That's right.
provoked and wound up and da da da
Yes.
da. Your
Yeah.
feelings don't last for ages
Yeah.
unless you try to bottle them up and hold them to keep them contained. That's when they kind of linger and they get worse
That's
and worse.
right.
As women, a lot more women are coming out and saying, do you know what,
Mm-hmm.
with the sort of like spiritual side of themselves, doing stuff like meditation and
Yeah.
really thinking about how they're feeling, having just quiet time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's even more so important because when we're talking about the generation gaps, like nowadays,
Mm.
there isn't much time for silence. The introduction of the internet and the social medias, and there's
Mm-hmm.
so many different types of
And
social media.
smartphones and
Yeah, exactly. It's always tick, 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 tick,
ping,
tick,
ping,
going.
ping. Yeah.
Like I've just started getting to the point where I'm like, I put my phone on do not disturb because
Yes. Yeah.
I need
Too
that
much.
quiet time just for myself. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how many of us like wake up and our phone is there and we turn over just to even check the time, but then there's a message, just go.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who
Yes.
it was that said something. I think it was Jay Shetty. He made the point. He's like, you wouldn't wake up to hundreds of people in your room, in your
No,
bedroom.
that's
So why do
true.
you do that with your phone?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
so
true.
it is that kind of just sitting and realizing and respecting yourself to give yourself some of your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know I love the way that when I've said that to some people, some of my clients, they laugh, and I'm like, but you are. How can you not give yourself half an hour of your time
Yes.
for
Yeah.
you? It's your own life that you're wasting if you just,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like,
And not feel guilty about it. I think there's a
yes.
tendency to feel guilty of taking that time because you're thinking, I've got 15 things that need to be done. So what?
And I've had to learn that the hard way with the fibromyalgia. The thing is, when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, the doctor went, yeah, you got fibromyalgia, textbook, go and Google it. The
It's
worst advice in the
terrible.
history of the world. Because when you Google this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
all you get is pure horror stories,
Yes.
absolute horror stories. And I've just had a baby at this point. So
Yeah.
my mental health rock bottom. I
Yeah.
was like,
I can
oh
imagine.
my God.
Yeah.
It was the worst. It was that kind of diagnosis, and I just sat there and cried. But luckily for me, because I have done a lot of work on myself, I was like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
taking it. I'm not dealing with it.
Yeah.
I'm not having that. I am not going to be a victim. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be a victim to this. And that is also something that is probably one of my biggest tips, is don't sit there and be a victim.
Yeah. It's all about the
You want to
mindset,
sit,
isn't it?
yeah, it's definitely about that mindset. Don't sit there and be a victim. Do not blame other people. Yes, they could have triggered something,
Yeah.
but if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to sit there and blame other people, you are giving your power away to somebody else. This is
Yeah.
your life. Take control for it. I sat about and I found a book. I went and read. I'm a big reader, so I just found one book and really researched into what fibromyalgia is and certain things that could have helped. I was like,
Yeah.
great. So now I have like a list of things, and it's, accepting that I need a nap during the day. I need to have regular baths, and I have it with Epsom salts. And I
Yeah.
found a company that's Epsom salts with a little bit of CBD added
Mm-hmm.
to it. They are amazing, and I need
Wow.
to have them regularly, like 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
A little bit of lighter exercise. So
Mm-hmm.
not, and actually being compassionate with myself, because what
Mm.
I had to reframe my mindset and go, do you know what? If I was diagnosed with something else, I would take that time and take the painkillers and
Mm-hmm.
take the tablets and take the medication. Like if I was, so why? Because there is almost like it's invisible, and it's
Yeah.
so many people can just kind of go, that's not real.
Yeah. Yeah.
But actually, oh, you're having a bath again. Yes, I am. You're
Yes,
having
you
a nap
are.
again. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's my treatment.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have this, I don't function. But because I've found my thing that works for me, I've
Mm-hmm.
managed to keep it under so much control, like the pain management and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I've learned to, it's that self-awareness of what I can and can't do. So I know that if I've got a big day peopling, as I
Mm-hmm.
say, like, or I go out on a family day, the day before and the day after, I need
Mm.
to keep clear, because the day before I need to reserve my energy for that day, and the
Mm-hmm.
day after I'm going to be recovering. And it's accepting that.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that we need to get back into as a
Yeah.
whole anyway, because
Mm-hmm.
if you are taking care of yourself and your body, and your nervous system is allowed to recheck itself, then your emotions recheck itself, and you allow your emotions to be. My biggest thing is, you need to give yourself that respect, because if
Yeah.
you're not, you're teaching others that they don't need to respect you. And the biggest turning point in my life
Mm.
was, I remember at teaching when they turned around and said to me, but that's the way it is. That's the way it is, and that's the way it's always been. I can promise you, just because that is the way it's always been, it doesn't make it
Mm-hmm.
right. But the turning point for me was, although I knew it wasn't right,
Mm-hmm.
is the second part is, I didn't have to stay. I didn't have to stick with it.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
change.
You have choices,
I have choice.
Yeah.
I didn't have to stay in that school. I didn't have to stay being that teacher
Yeah.
and stick to the way that has always been. If your body and your gut is telling you it is not right, change it. You are
Yeah.
entitled to change it. And if
Yeah.
you don't know how, there is so much help out there,
Yeah. Yeah.
so much help and support.
There is. And I think it's so, so powerful, actually, what you've just described, because that is what living your life by design is. It's saying, I don't want these things. Let me take some time to slow down and figure out what I do want. And if there's something happening, like sickness in your body, let me go and find out how I can make myself feel better. I don't have to live with it.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the pain Olympics. I can, I can make the choices to make my life better, regardless of what other people think about me taking a nap in the day or having two buffs. So this is my, like you said, this is your recovery. This is your medicine.
Yeah.
And that's how you become a better version, the best version of yourself. And that's how
Yeah.
you become a better parent. because you would do that for your child, wouldn't you? If your child was tired and they had fatigue, and you would make sure that they got their rest, that they got what they needed. So you should do that for yourself, because why wouldn't you?
Yes, exactly. And that is what and I can't remember if it was you that I was telling this or having this conversation with, like the term self-care and
Mm,
self-love is really thrown around. But people, I don't think, completely understand the term self-love,
mhm.
because they get it confused with self-care. Self-care is having that bath, having that nap, doing your nails, making sure you're eating right, having that kind of time to yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
But the self-love is the mindset. And
Mhm.
the way that I describe it is it's that unconditional love for yourself, as if you're the same unconditional love that you'd have for your child. So it is
Yes.
exactly what you're saying. So it's loving yourself in a way that you can still want to improve. Like you always turn around to your child, you can want them to improve. It doesn't stop you
Mhm.
from loving them.
Yes, that's right.
Do you know what I mean? It
That's
doesn't,
right.
know, you want them to have respect for themselves and have their
Mhm.
self-esteem and love themselves and be happy in themselves. And but you can still go, you know what, you're a pain in my backside, tidy up your room. Do you
Mhm.
know? Do
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Or no, and that's the way that I explain self-love.
Yeah.
And it is that kind of unconditional love for
Yes, and
yourself
it
and
is, and
respect.
it comes down to worth and worthiness. Do you see yourself as being worthy of the care that you need, of the time
Mhm.
that you need? And then you have to ask yourself that question and answer it honestly, because a lot of, women would say, "No, I don't think I'm worth it," and that's where you have to do the work.
Yeah,
That's where
and
it happens.
this is where I a lot of people say to me, how on earth do you do the living life by your design and self-empowerment with
Hmm.
conscious parenting? But
Hmm.
that for me, it is self-explanatory, because you get your worth and value and stuff like that from your subconscious beliefs. And I'm not saying that your parents sat there and called you fat or called you this or called you that
No.
and everything else. But if they praised you for working hard, your
Hmm.
belief system subconsciously is going to be, I need to work hard, I need to keep going, I need to keep doing, I need to be productive.
Yes.
If you're, and unfortunately it does happen more with girls, because I've seen it between my son and my daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a beautiful girl, you're a gorgeous girl,
Yeah.
and it's that kind of almost labeling, and they're not actively saying that,
Hmm.
but their belief system as they're growing up, it becomes, people like me or want me or value me because of my looks.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The work that I do is about finding where
Hmm.
your value is coming from. What is that belief system? Where has that stemmed? Um, and then bringing that to the surface so that you can use those tools and be a little bit more of a conscious parent, so that you're not passing those belief systems on to your children.
Absolutely.
You as a parent are a little bit more conscious. I'm not saying you're going to get it right. I'm not trying to make a perfect parent. It's just
No.
being
Yeah.
a little bit more mindful, a little bit more conscious of how that can then impact your children, because this is how it's impacting you as an adult now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that realization of knowing that from the ages of 0 to 7,
Hmm.
children live in what they call a theta state. Now,
Hmm.
theta state means that you just absorb everything.
Yes. Yeah. Which is actually a bit scary.
It's really scary. They're empty, essentially. They just
Yes. Yes.
absorb everything. They're
Everything.
learning everything
Yeah.
about society, and
Hmm.
they don't. Even if you're not consciously meaning to teach them that, they are
Hmm.
learning everything. That's the
They
way
are.
it is. Like we live and breathe. The sky is blue, but if you said the sky is actually purple to a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, they'd be like, really? They're
Really. Yeah.
questioning. No, okay, they'd be more willing to take it on board because they're in that stage.
Yes. That's right.
Whereas when that belief system is stuck,
Yeah.
particularly when you're an adult, it's so much harder to change.
It is. You've got to actively now challenge it at every sort of turn, which is more challenging. It really
It
is.
really is. And I get that. So as a parent, it's really scary sometimes. Go, oh
Yeah.
my God, I can't tell him off. I can't lose my temper. I can't. Blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But at the same time, I say conscious parent is not. It's not about that. It's not
No.
about being perfect. It's about when you do
Mm-hmm.
get wrong and you start having to go at your child because they've really triggered you, and you actively go away. You show them you need to take that time to calm
Yes.
down.
Yeah.
Show them how you manage your emotions effectively
Mm-hmm.
and appropriately. And then you show them that you're sorry. You apologize, actively apologize.
Yes. Yeah.
Because even that act is saying, I know I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're learning that you don't have to be perfect.
No.
Because who can live up to being perfect? I know most of us
No.
women try,
Yeah.
but if we're taught at a younger age that it's okay not to be perfect, we can make mistakes
Mm-hmm.
and we can make up for them.
I always say, what that's the biggest parenting tool for me is repairing with your children, is
Yeah,
going back after you've had some sort of rupture in the connection. Something's happened, you've lost your temper or you've gone overboard or whatever it is, we've all been there. And going back to them and saying, you know what, I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. I shouldn't have called you that. I shouldn't have said that to you. Because what
yeah,
happens is when we have parents who don't do that, then we wonder why children grow up and get into abusive relationships. Well, if it's normal to be called names, yeah, it's not,
God, yes.
it doesn't feel nice, but if it's normal to you, you're not going to think it's a red flag that someone calls you name, that yells at you all the time. It feels like home. This is what we do,
Exactly.
you know? So, but if you tell them, listen, I
Exactly.
know that was wrong. You didn't deserve that. And I'm sorry. So even if you've done it, they still know, oh, that was wrong because mum came back and said that was wrong. So now they
Yeah.
do know that's wrong and it's not normalized.
I want to squash that concept of you never say sorry to your children because you're the
Mm,
parent and you have to show control. No, because
absolutely
it's
not.
not about power and control.
Yeah.
It is about raising a human being.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is not a dog. They are not a
Mm-hmm.
dog. They are not a toy. They are not your possession. They are a human being.
Yeah.
You are raising that next person, that next adult.
Yeah.
What you are doing here
Mm-hmm.
will affect them. So if you were that child at some point in your life and your parent had lost their temper with you,
Mm-hmm.
think about the difference it would have made if your parent had said sorry to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much of that learning and value and self-worth would
Yeah.
you have got? That feeling of respect
Yes.
as a
Yeah.
child, because
Yeah.
someone who you is in your authority, you respect and love
Yeah.
and cherish, is showing you respect back. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like that, and
Yeah.
like you were saying, that is showing a healthy relationship.
It is. It really is. So just to kind of finalize, what's your kind of main takeaway of living your life by design, taking back your identity and your control over your own life, I think it does start with being self-aware and taking that time
It's
to know
that
yourself.
self-awareness, know yourself, and really thinking about your energy, your vibe. And I know because
Yes.
obviously I'm the manifesting mama, I use the manifesting. No, I wouldn't even get onto that because that's a whole different subject.
You have to
But
come back on and talk about
yeah, so
that.
but it is your energy. So
Yeah.
and this comes back with that if you're sitting in that vibe of stress or fear or anxiety,
Yeah.
you walk into a room and you can just feel that energy off someone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
in, you can even feel it off the energy, like when you're talking to someone online or
Mm-hmm.
virtual energy. You know, people, you can get that energy is just a little bit off.
Mm-hmm.
But what you need to think about is how you're keeping your energy in a
Yeah.
more positive. So
Yes.
getting yourself out of victim mode and handing your power to somebody else, really taking on that responsibility of how you react to that situation. Um, One of my favorite authors and Paul McGee, and he got this also from Jack Cranfield, I believe. And it's the formula of E, the event, plus your response equals the outcome. Yeah. Whereas I think a lot of people go straight to the event equals the outcome. So this happened, therefore this happened. No. This happened, your response to that has then caused this outcome. And by taking that responsibility for you, yourself, your self-awareness. Okay. That's and it could even be as simple as, you know, planning out your day prior rather than letting the day happen, so that you've planned in time to take care of you. Have meditation, have a bath, do your nails, go and talk to someone who lights you up, keeps you in a positive mood. Choosing not to talk to people who bring you down.
Absolutely,
Okay, we need to get rid of those toxic people.
Let us know where we can find you online, how our listeners can work with you.
Definitely. So I'm on Facebook. My profile is open. You can add me at any point. So it's Lolly Williams Gibbs. That's my main profile. My free Facebook group is Being Mum, Being Me. But I am on Instagram, Lolly.Williams Gibbs. I do have 7 steps to loving yourself and living your dream life. It's a free guide. You can get, so if you,
I'll put it in the notes. We'll confirm it and I'll put it in the notes. Don't worry.
By all means. I mean, I tend to be the only Lolly Williams Gibbs.
I love what you're doing with women, with mums. I think it's so important. So thank you so much for, you know, taking the time and coming to chat with me. Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if no one has told you today, you're doing a great job and I'm proud of you. And I'll see you next time.